Hey, fifth grade, it's Mr. Headington. This is our week, I don't know what we're on, week 16, 17, something like that. We're getting close to the end of the year for fifth grade and our health time too. So, man, we've learned quite a few things in the last few weeks regarding growing up and changing. The whole thing's about puberty. And today is a day that I need to share some things with you that are super important in life. And, well, I wish we were in person to learn them. So it is pretty important stuff we're going to be discussing. So in a few minutes, I'll explain the stuff that's on the first slide, but I want to move on to our other things. So far in the last 4 weeks or so, we've learned about what puberty is. Remember, puberty is the changes of the body. Boys change into men, girls change into women. Really, the whole thing about puberty is getting your body ready for reproduction. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. Without puberty, we wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be new human beings being created. Puberty starts with the pituitary gland. So your brain is a very important part of how everything is functioning and going on in your body overall. Then you learned about hormones. Hopefully understood that we all have a number of hormones in our body. Some are created for kind of other things related to, metabolism, like, using the calories from the foods you eat, controlling just day-to-day kind of stuff that's going on. Your sleep cycles are related to hormones, and also the stuff about reproduction has to do with hormones. So if you remember, for the beginning part, we talked about how boys and girls' bodies are a little different, or men and women's, male and females. And there's two glands that kind of help with the whole reproductive stuff, and also cause a lot of the changes that we talked about. So for the girl's body or the female's body, it's ovaries. And for the boys' bodies and males' bodies, it's the testes or testicles. Either word is correct. And the hormones that they make are the things that are kind of causing the changes that are going on for puberty. So if we moved along, you learned about the world's tallest man. Pretty interesting topic there, but it's more just about the growth hormones, not necessarily about the whole thing about reproduction on there. And then thinking about the different changes that happen to everybody. So if you remember us talking about, you'll have a growth spurt and you'll get acne and you'll have body hair in funny places that you didn't before. Body odor is a big issue, and I know teachers have kind of reminded me saying, hey, can you have the deodorant talk again? I'm having it with you every day, I guess. Use your deodorant, get your body clean, and so on. Voice changes happen for both boys and girls, and mood swings. So it's not just your physical changes, it's also about your feelings and emotions. Specific to your gender, for boys' bodies, we learned about the hormone testosterone that creates more of the facial hair, body hair, growing taller, more muscular, deeper voice, and broader shoulders. And for females, it's estrogen and progesterone, creating a little bit softer, smoother skin, a little less body hair and facial hair, but still some. Breasts start to grow, hips widen, waist stays narrow. That has to do with the job that the female's body has for giving birth, and your growth spurt starts a little sooner. So as we move on today, there'll be a little bit more to talk about for both of those there. So this is where I want you kind of to start off with me on this. And before I start, I really want you to make sure that you are being appropriate with this information, and that, if you do have questions, a reminder that your parents and, your teachers and your doctor and everyone else is there to help you. And, these are all kind of things that maybe some of you have already learned about through stuff through home, or having a conversation with your doctor for your, yearly checkup and so on. They start talking to you about these certain things. So here's where I want to start. How are you or we created? Well, it has to do with your mom and your dad, male and female, and the reproductive system. So really, our bodies are fairly much the same when we talk about all the other systems of the body: nervous system, circulatory system, respiratory system, your skeletal system, your muscular system. They're all basically the same. But when it comes to the reproductive system, there are differences, and that's where we're going to be leading to today. So I'm just going to do a little overview here and kind of move on to the things you'll need to know in the next couple slides. So for females, the reproductive system parts are the uterus, also known as the womb. It's the place that all of us were living for about 9 months of our life before we were born. And from this point on, I do not want anybody ever to say that you were inside your mom's stomach. Stomach is not a place for a baby to grow. The uterus is. Ovaries. Ovaries are the two glands that are inside the woman's body. They're kind of located behind your belly button and a little bit off to each side. Women have 2 of them, just like men have 2 testes too, and they make the egg cells that would create the new human beings, and so on, and the hormones that we talked about earlier. The body changes there. And then for the female's body, the vagina is the passageway for birth for the baby to be born, also the way for the sperm cells to get in from the dad's body too. So kind of thinking about what we need to know about this stuff, really just think of this. The female's body creates the egg cells. About 1 egg cell per month is released by the ovaries, sometimes 2, which is the reason that sometimes there are multiple babies born at one time, like twins. We'll talk about twins a little later too. So this picture right here is still a microscopic picture, but the egg cell is about the size of a grain of sand. So if you think of like sand in your hand, if you brushed away all the sand grains till you got down to one little tiny one that you got left there, that's about how big the egg cell was. So then over here on this side for the male's body, or the dad, reproductive system parts are the penis, which releases the sperm cells, and semen from the body. Semen is a fluid that the sperm cells live in. I'll talk about those later. Testes or testicles, there's 2 of them, just like there's 2 ovaries. And they make the sperm cells and the hormones for the man's body. Scrotum, which is just the sac of skin that holds the testes on the outside of the body and keeps them at the right temperature. So in thinking of things, on the diagrams in the next couple pages, we'll talk about where things are. But just think of it this way. For the female's body, most of these parts are on the inside of the body. For the male's body, this is mostly on the outside of the body. And both have to do with private parts. So that's kind of where we need to be sensitive about how we talk about these things. Hey, one interesting factor. Remember I said 1 egg cell per month is released by the mom's body or the female's body? Look at this. Sperm cells. 100 million sperm cells are made every single day by the man's testes. They don't really, they're super, super small. 100 million of them is just like, barely anything you could see. And the diagram down here, a little picture, is kind of more animated. This one is an actual microscopic picture. This one's probably just a computer-generated picture. But sperm cells have a very tiny little head that has the information in it for making the new human being, and they have a tail for moving. So those are the basic parts that I'll be talking about. And as we move along, we'll go to the male reproductive system. I'm not going to go through all these things over here. Just understand that the boys' parts of the body are, part of the outside of the body here. Some of these are on the inside. But really all you need to know at your age is that sperm cells are made in the testes. They come out through the penis. Boys will be talking about this during their chat next week. Girls can learn about it a little bit too as they get through the next parts here too. So really for the man's body, all their job is for reproduction is to make the sperm cells. For the female's body, and again, I'm not going to go through all this stuff. I just basically want you to know a couple things here. So again, the female's reproductive parts are inside their lower part of their abdomen or body, kind of behind the belly button. This more muscular part here in the middle, the gray part's kind of the muscles. That's the uterus. That is the place that all of us spent the 9 months before we were born. The ovaries, the egg cells come from there. There's another tube here called the fallopian tube, and the vagina would be here. Really, all you need to know is egg cells made by the mom's body are coming from the ovaries, and uterus is the place for the baby to grow. What happens in order for a baby to happen? Well, some things I can tell you about, other things your parents have to help you out with. But I can tell you basically on the cellular part here. So little description here. It says sperm cells, millions of them, leave the man's body in a fluid called semen. The sperm are very, very small compared to the female's egg cell. An egg cell from the female is released from the ovary. If some of the sperm cells make it to the egg cell at the right time inside the woman's body, then maybe 1 sperm cell and the 1 egg cell will combine to start making a new human being. So if you think of it this way, these are the female reproductive parts here. The little ovals here, the eggs, 1 gets released. The millions of sperm cells enter through the woman's vagina. And don't worry if they're not this big. That'd be kind of scary. But if 1 or a few of them make it, if you look at this picture here, this is it looks like a ball of yarn here with the yellow or orangey kind of color. That's the egg cell. And the little blue strands on here are little sperm cells. So only a few of them make it. And 1 sperm cell getting into the egg cell would create a new human being. And we'll tell later about how the kind of chromosomes, the stuff that's inside those cells, helps to create you and how you ended up being you. So I want you to realize one thing here. As long as the sperm cells from the man's body don't come into the woman's body, no baby can happen. So in life, as you think about it, like I'm a parent. When I was, a teenager, I had no intentions of being a parent until I was much older. In fact, when I got my 20s, I didn't think about even being a parent yet. I wasn't ready to be that. And then when I got married in my late 20s, and my wife and I were in our 30s when we had our children. So there is a time when you can decide when you want to have children. So don't think of it as like, oh my gosh, my body's going through puberty. It's getting ready for reproduction. This is going to happen. Well, certain things have to happen in order for a baby to happen. And as long as sperm cells and egg cells don't meet, babies don't happen. Implantation or pregnancy, I should say. So another diagram here, if the sperm cell is getting in, conception is the word that kind of describes when that egg cell was fertilized. But the egg cell has to make its way down to the uterus and find a nice cozy spot for that uterus to start growing, or I'm sorry, the baby to start growing inside the uterus, and that is when the woman becomes pregnant. And sometimes your mom might not have even known yet that she was having you, but shortly after that all happened, within a few weeks they would have known that you were there. And for me, when I was a baby, I didn't. My parents are gone now, so I can't ask them. But I do remember that moment when we discovered we were going to have a baby. Pretty exciting time for us. And then again, when my son was, we had my son too. That it was kind of like we knew, but we just didn't know exactly at that time if we were pregnant or not. And obviously, the 9 months that it takes for that baby to grow inside the uterus, it was a pretty exciting time in my life. My wife too. So. And then today, I'm not going to show this during this video, but I want you to see this. This is a kind of computer generated description about the egg cells and sperm cells and how they meet. There's no body parts involved with the mom and dad here. It's just kind of like, it's kind of a computer generated animation of the sperm cell's journey to the egg cell and then eventually to the baby growing. And again, everything on there is like CGI graphics. So it's not actual image. This is an image not of me or of my kids. This is just an image, but this would be the baby starting to grow, and they'd be super small inside the mom's uterus. You can already start to see how they form. So some of you think, hey, that looks a little weird. We all look that way at one time. So finally today, as we go through the stuff that I shared with you, that is in the slideshow, but back to our beginning one here. I'd like you to see this video on the about conception. That's the one I explained there. And then if you click on this other image here about brain pop, it'll take you to the next slide. There are 3 videos here. All are super interesting. I wish we could share these with you in person, because I know it's going to generate a lot of questions. So the first one is how you ended up being a boy or girl. And certain genes or certain chromosomes had to happen in order to create the boy baby, and certain ones for the girl baby. Second video here. Oh, by the way, this first one, you do need the username and password for it. The second one is just a YouTube link, so you can just click on it and watch it. This is about twins. And for twins, it's like how do you end up having identical twins versus fraternal twins. We'll explain all that in there. And how you end up with twins with one boy and one girl, and so on. And man, I got to say that every school I teach at over many, many years, I have had many sets of twins. I don't recall if I had any triplets, though. There might be one set of triplets in some Prairie, but I don't remember that. But if you wondered like how moms have more than one baby at a time with twins, triplets, quadruplets, and so on, that'll explain it there. And then the final one here, this is probably one of the more fascinating things for me to teach and to learn about, and it's about genetics, like how you end up looking like your parents. I look a lot like my mom in certain ways, but I also look a lot like my dad in certain ways. And, that not only has to do with your outward appearance, but also your personality. Like my dad had a bit of a temper. I don't usually have too big a temper, so I'm thinking I'm more like my mom that way. But, like my hair color, my eye color, my skin, my height, my, body shape, even the things I'm interested in, some of that might be related to genetics. So that will explain there too. And then finally today, I will leave a couple questions on Seesaw. And I would also like you to, and I forgot to put it in here, the link for the anonymous question box thing, because next week, so this week's our last week kind of talking about this on Seesaw. Next week, we'll have a Zoom class to kind of finish up our stuff about puberty. And hopefully you'll have some questions you can ask me. And I hope that with the topics we covered today, there's lots of questions. So make my life interesting by sharing those questions in the anonymous question box button that's on the slideshow, and you clicked on it. So hopefully you had a great week. Hopefully, I really wish we could be in person for this. I really, some of you are like, why do you like teaching this stuff? I think it's really interesting to teach about, and I hope you find it interesting too. So even though some of you are like, no, I don't want to hear this. Yeah, you want to hear it. And I'm sure in some ways you want to know more. So we're all there to help you. So remember, think about the teachers and parents and everyone else, those trusted adults that help you with these questions you have. So have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again soon.